Welcome to the weekly current affair class. Today we will be dealing with topics from society and security. The topic that we will be dealing with from society is with respect to the parliamentary committee on the official language, and with respect to society is the linkage of organized crime and terrorism. So starting with our first topic, that is parliamentary committee on official language. You must have heard about it. Okay, there was so much news about the recommendations of this committee in the newspaper, as well as the opposition showed by the southern states, especially the chief minister of Tamil Nadu, Mr. M.K. Stalin. Okay, so first of all we need to see what are the major recommendations of the committee, the major we will be discussing here. Okay, first of all, the committee argues that the medium of instruction in technical as well as non-technical higher education courses. Okay, technical obviously are just like engineering is there, medical is there. Okay, and non-technical institutions such as IITs should be in Hindi speaking states, should be in Hindi, and wherever they are located in another states, whatever the native language of that state is, it should be that native dialect should be preferred. So in comparison to what we say, the imposition the subjects in the English language, it argues about basically giving preference to the regional languages. First of all, it stated that Hindi should be designated as one of the United Nations official languages, obviously to improve what we say the spread of Hindi as a language. Okay, to make it more recognizable, that was the argument, basic argument here. And another major one was that Hindi should be granted a respectable place in A category states. If you had must listened about it, the committee divided the states in A, B, C states. A states were those whose major primary language is Hindi. For example, Haryana is there, Himachal Pradesh is there. And B states are those where along with Hindi regional language is also basically present. So it granted the basically what to say, it divided the states in three lists, A, B and C, and it stated that the list A here, basically the list with respect to the states where the Hindi is the major language or the primary language. Okay, it should be given, first of all it should be accorded a primary place or respectable place. Okay, and they should be used completely in these areas. Okay, in these states the Hindi should be completely replaced basically English as a language. These were the some of the major recommendations of this committee. Another recommendations were also there with respect to the use of Hindi in the high courts of the states. Okay, with respect to education as a medium. But the major recommendations, that three that need to be listed here, are that basically the instruction of medium as Hindi in the technical and non-technical education first, position of Hindi in A category states, and making Hindi as one of the United Nations official language. So there was lot hue and cry over this here, that basically from the southern states specifically, that concerns were shown with respect to imposition of Hindi language upon the other states. So with respect to our society, as you must know that we discuss diversity. Okay, and it talks about the issue deals with linguistic diversity here, linguistic diversity. Okay, so whether this linguistic diversity should be encouraged, should be promoted, should be celebrated, or basically there should be one language, one nation culture, that the debate has been going on. So to enhance the communication links, to for the spread of economy. Okay, for basically interlinkage of people, cultural exchanges between people. So both the arguments have been made on the other sides basically, but the major concern has been shown by the states who see that, who have their own regional languages, that it will somehow an attempt to impose the Hindi on our states. And specifically we will be dealing with that concerns also. We will be also dealing with basically what are the official language secret act is there, or the appointment of the committee that is there, all the things that we will be discussing here, the major issues. See, the individuals who argue that there should be one language, okay, that should dominate Okay, societal sphere, base say on the basis of, see, that if there will be one nation, one language, okay, it will curb the basically, or it will weed out the differences that people have among them, or for very long period of time we have had our differences on the basis of language. We have also seen the movement within the India with respect to the categorization of states on the basis of language. So to weed out that difference is basically a one language concept is basically a very well suited idea, that people belonging to similar language or people with belonging to similar cultural background, they will basically have left differences among them. Second is basically obviously used by majority of the population. If we argue about that, see, let's see if this is a map of India. Okay, this is a rough map of India. If at least, if we talk about this states or this states, at least 15 to 16 states are there basically where Hindi is in usage. Okay, so majority, and the, if you have studied the demographic theory of transition also, there we also discuss basically the population statistics of India, and we know that the maximum population of India also resides in these areas. So if it is used by majority of the population, it can be well suited to the idea of basically as a official language. Then it serves as a link for communication. Okay, the argument that is made here is basically for the states who are not who have not Hindi as their primary language, especially for the basically the states with their own regional dialects. The problem here is that we use English as a communication link between the Hindi speaking states and the non-Hindi speaking states. So why to use another foreign language as a link when we have our own language? When we have our own language that can serve as a link for communication between the states, and it will enhance the unity and integrity of the country basically. Okay, that is why the argument has been made that the benefit is there. For example, another benefit I will list out to you here, that if people on the basis of language will communicate it with each other, we have already seen that it will weed out basically linguistic problems or the issues that are there between individuals. It will encourage geographical mobility. People will be more easily available to what we say go to the migrate to the other regions. There will be no as such a linguistic barrier. For example, if individual is migrating to a southern state, or individual from a southern state has to migrate to a northern state, they will be easily able to communicate with each other. That will not be thing will be there obviously, and it will enhance the unity and diversity of the country, because the less the differences, the more the unity. And development of education in Indian language is something that has our government has dreamt for long, that to enhance the spread of education, the major issue that there is basically it is the English language. Okay, it has been a major issue in the remote and hinterland areas, basically the knowledge or the spread of English basically, which hinders the development of the mind as well as the basically what we say knowledge capacity of the young children. So what is needed is basically our own language. We need to develop our text, our knowledge system in our own language, so that it can create a more efficient impact upon the children. So what are the basic benefits that are being made here? That is, it serves the idea of one nation, one language. Link it with the differences on the basis of linguistic diversity that we had our basically after the partition times. Then use of by majority of population, link it with the where the majority of the population resides and what is the language that is spoken by them. The linkage between for communication, link it with, I told you about the geographical mobility between people from northern and southern regions. Then unity and diversity of India, obviously less the differences, more the unity. And last of all, basically development of education in Indian basically what we say language. Okay, so that it can create a more efficient respect, more learning outcome can be produced. Obviously we know that if a child learns in his or her own mother language or the native tongue, it creates a more efficient impact upon the development of the child. So these are the bases on the which one use of Hindi was promoted. But The issues, the critics have spoken out issues like I've already told you, the basically well-versed opposition by the southern states, especially by the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. The first issue that is made out is that it does not represent India's linguistic diversity. See, you can argue that that map of India is actually a linguistic map of India. If you see the territorial division of states, you will see a linguistic map of India. You will see basically that all the states that are carved out, okay, on the what basis they are carved out, basically that is language. You will see that yes, this state is there, this language is spoken. So Punjab is there, Punjabi is spoken, okay, Gujarat is there, Gujarati is spoken, Maharashtra is there, Maharashtra is Marathi is spoken. So like this, basically the territorial extent of the country also represents the linguistic map of India. Further, it will make official communication difficult for states not using Hindi as their official language. See, it puts, there is always a two-way street to develop or to bring a social change. Okay, but what happens here is it only brings an onus or burden upon the individuals who do not know Hindi to basically learn Hindi so that they can communicate with the people who know Hindi. Okay, that is a basic issue here. Two-way street is not there, that yes, people who know Hindi, they are also learning the regional dialect of the areas or the states where basically Hindi is not spoken. But here what is happening is that the only people who have their own regional language, who do not know the use of Hindi, if Hindi is used, basically they will have to learn this additional language. So that is a basic thing. Further, the idea of national language, or you can also state like we already discussed, that is one nation, one language. Okay, it is not supported by constitution under the schedule 8. We know all about the 22 languages that it talks about. Further, if you talk about, you can also supplement it that census 2011 also mentions 100 plus dialects that are basically spoken in India that are recognized by the census. So you cannot impose one nation, one culture. Okay, then Hindi is not the mother tongue of majority of Indians. As I have already told you, that see, majority of the people that speak Hindi, they belong to the central belt. But if you go to the southern belt, basically all the states have their own regional languages. Okay, in the northeast there is English, that is their own mother tongue. Then basically in the north also there are some states that they have their own regional language. So if the argument cannot be made that if the majority of the people use this language, basically others also have the right to protect their regional identity, regional language. So that is also the context. Further, you can also link it with basically sub-nationalism. Okay, sub-nationalism concept that is there. Nationalism on the basis of language that can create counter resistance to basically what we say, the imposition of one nation, one language. Okay, constraints federal rights of states as per article 345 and 347. 345 is there, you must have studied within your with respect to official languages. Article 343 is there, 345 is there. Okay, then led to protests in non-Hindi speaking states. There is a division between northern and southern states. We must always remember, see, we must always remember the era after independence where there was movement to carve the states on the basis of linguistic diversity. We have over the period of time basically we have built the bridges, and we have tried to brought people closer by celebrating diversity, by encouraging diversity, by recognizing that people have the right to protect their own culture. But this can be counterproductive. First of all, with respect to, we should see the movements. For example, you must have studied about the Andhra Pradesh movement that was there, death of a Congress leader which led to protests, that kind of movement basically. And another, we should also take the context of the foreign countries as well. For example, Bangladesh, the nation, the basic argument on the basis of which East Pakistan was basically transformed into Bangladesh was on the basis of language. Urdu was imposed by basically by the West Pakistan on the East Pakistan, which led to resistance. Basically they wanted to recognize their own language, that is Bengali. Okay, which led to the creation of, again you can link it with creation of sub-nationalism, on nationalism on the basis of language. Okay, which can create a counterproductive movement, and it can further endanger the unity and integrity of the country. Okay, next one, it will impact students from non-Hindi speaking areas. Obviously, if the a medium of education is Hindi, the individuals who are well versed in that language, whose mother tongue is basically Hindi, they will be having more, what we say, opportunity to score better marks, to learn well, basically in comparison to the individuals from non-Hindi speaking areas who have not learned Hindi throughout their life. So it creates a disadvantage for them. So what are the basic issues on the basis of which this is talked about? First of all is basically on the basis that it does not represent India's linguistic diversity. Link it with map of India is the linguistic map of the country. Then making official language basically from non-Hindi speaking states, it will create a problem of communication. Then the national language here basically does not support the diversity that has been provided to you in schedule 8 of the constitution, neither it does not basically well reflect what census talks about. Then Hindis, we need to recognize that Hindi is not the mother tongue of many people living in the country, and they need to basically, their linguistic diversity needs to be protected. Then basically you can talk about the federal rights under article 345 that talks about states. 343 talks about the official status of the central government. Then it may lead to the protest like I talked to you about with respect to the what basically sub-nationalism. We need to look out at our historical context movement within India and the movement outside India on the basis of language, and overall it will all very negatively affect basically the students from the non-Hindi speaking areas. So these are the major issues here. You may be asked a question in UPSC with respect to this linguistic diversity, that whether one language one nation formula is a good concept, or what are the issues that are basically reflected that can be what are the consequences that can emerge out of this kind of imposition. So along with this, we also need to learn about the constitutional provisions that talk about protecting the linguistic diversity. First of all, there is article 29. Okay, any citizen, section of citizens residing in the territory of India or part thereof have a distinct language. It specifically talks about distinct language, script or culture of its own shall have the right to conserve the same. Article 29 specifically talks about that even if an individual is from a basically linguistic minority, he or she has the right to protect it basically. So that is there. Then article 343 is there, that the official language of the union shall be Hindi in Devanagari spirit. Okay, the form of numerals to be used for the official purpose shall be the international form of Indian numerals. Then obviously I have already talked you about. Then article 345 talks about the official language of the state. Okay, then you can also talk about here, that is article 350b, which talks about special officer with context to linguistic issues. Okay, that is there. You can also mention that provision. These are some constitutional provisions that talks about the language. Okay, then we need to also learn about something with respect to your official, what we say, language act that is your there. Then basically it talks about, see what it talks about is it allows the continuance of English language for official purposes for the union and for use in parliament. Two terms that are there for union as well as for parliament even after 65. You must know that basically for the 15 years both the languages were allowed. Then a particular act basically what it talks about, that is both the languages of the union as well as the parliament, basically English as well as the Hindi, they will both be allowed to continue after 1965. Okay, that is particularly mentioned here. Then the governor of a state, mention the what we say keywords here, the governor of a state with the previous consent of the president. Okay, it may, he or she basically governor may authorize the use of official language in the state. That official language may be Hindi or any another language that is spoken by the majority of the people as per the wishes of the state. The governor can allow the basically use of that language with the previous consent of the governor, in addition to the English language for the purpose of any judgment with respect to courts, degree or order passed or made by the High Court for that state. So the governor, with the previous consent of the president, can allow the use of any language that is spoken by majority of the people. That language can be Hindi or any other regional language for the purpose of judgments, degrees, and like that kind of things. Then your article 350A, it facilitates for the instruction of mother tongue at the primary age. So it also talks about the linguistic, protecting the linguistic diversity. Okay, that individual at basically an infant child should be made to learn in the mother language. As I have already told you about this, that see, the most impact here that you can create on the development of the mind is in the mother language, because there is more learning outcome with respect to the mother language. Then article 351 is their directive for the development of Hindi language. Okay, that is there. These are the major provisions that you should know about. Moving forward, you should also know about that every basically at the 10 years, it is the president may be also asked with respect to your prelims exams as well, that the president at the expiration of 10 years by order constitute a commission which shall consist of a chairman and other members representing the different languages specified in 8th schedule of the constitution. So the president is to appoint the commission after every 10 years, okay, representing the individuals who from the linguistic diversity, basically the individuals that the languages that are mentioned in the schedule 8 of the constitution, the individuals from within respective speaking those particular languages will be made the member of the commission. So okay, the commission shall constitute 30 members, of which 20 are to be the members of the House of People, that means Lok Sabha. Okay, then further 10 members shall be the members of the Council of States, that is basically your Rajya Sabha. Okay, and to be elected by each house in accordance with the system of proportional representation by the means of single transferable vote. So the commission that is to be appointed for the development of Hindi language, it has to be appointed every 10 years first of all, and it should include the members from the basically languages including 8th schedule of the constitution. Second thing, third thing, basically with respect to the members, 20 members should be belonging to Lok Sabha, 10 members from the Rajya Sabha. They will be elected, be it I am repeating here, they will be elected, they will not be nominated by speaker, they will be elected by each house through the system of proportional representation and single transferable vote. Okay, this because this is so much in news, this thing may be asked well within your prelims exams. They may ask with respect to who appoints the commission. Okay, what are the basically, is it on the any member can be, individual can be made a member, or the limit with respect to 8th schedule has to be adhered, or basically with respect to from how many which houses how many members are there, are first next they are either elected or they are nominated. So that is the commission that the basically president has to appoint. Then basically that was our last topic. So what you need to remember in that topic is, again, two things basically are important. One is with respect to your mains exams and other is with respect to your prelims exams. With respect to your mains exams, the question that may be asked with respect to benefits or the issues basically with respect to the imposition of one language, one thing. Second is with respect to prelims exams, basically the commission that I already mentioned, or they may ask you with respect to the what we say particular provisions of the constitution that are dealing with the linguistic minority, okay, or the protection of the basically linguistic diversity. So these things may be asked. Next issue is with respect to our society, that is organized crime. So first of all we need to know what is the organized crime. See, organized crime, we need to see first of all, if we talk in simple or layman terms, okay, what is organized crime? Organized crime is basically a very huge or large multinational or national organization operating under the guise of basically acting as a legal group, but whose basically major group or major nature or whose basically major task is to get involved in illegal activities, and they may carry out these tasks through a number of operations. Okay, the task may be of money laundering. Okay, shell company made, for example, a huge multinational company made okay, but in fact its subsidiaries are shell companies who are basically, what they are doing is to launder the money. Okay, they may be indulged in drug trade, the money that is coming from drug trade, it is laundered basically. Second, they may be also indulged under the guise of some company, and basically they are indulged in some human trafficking or any other activity. So what is an organized crime? It is basically a category of a national or an international organizations, okay, made to look like that it is legal, but it is actually indulged in an illegal activity. So that is what is mentioned here, that it is a category of transnational, it means MNCs, national or even a local grouping of highly centralized enterprises. Centralized means very organized company like behavior run by criminals to engage in illegal activities, mostly for profit. So three things, like just if you can't remember this technical definition, remember what I have told you, that is that it is a large organization that may operate at international level, national or local level, made to look like that it is running some legal business, but it is actually involved in some illegal activity for profit basis. So there are many types of organized crime that you can classify. First of all is the drug trafficking, then hawala transaction, cyber crimes, human trafficking, money laundering, many type of things are there. Okay, if you talk about drug trafficking, all of you have heard about the golden crescent and the golden triangle in your security classes. Okay, in the golden crescent in the northwest and the golden triangle in the east leads to a cross border nexus for smuggling and terrorist activities. Okay, that is one type of organized crime, that is drug trafficking. Next is hawala transaction, illegal organized system to transfer funds from one place to another place, that is called as hawala transaction, that you must have also studied in detail within your security classes. Then cyber crimes, ransomware, malware, working as transnationally organized activity. Some individual sitting in some another country is basically carrying out cyber attacks on the infrastructure of the country. Okay, that is the issue with respect to the cyber crimes. Then human trafficking linked with organized crime and is considered as one of the most profitable criminal activities worldwide. Okay, and next one is money laundering entities, shell companies, insurance sector, use of financial markets and basically banks by an organized nexus. So what may be asked to you with respect to your mains examination is that, see, what is an organized crime and or what are the types of organized crime and how organized crime and terrorism is linked together. First of all, what is it? Okay, you may note it out down also. Then what are its types? Okay, and basically how organized crime and terrorism is linked together. Okay, these things can be asked, so you must remember what are your types of organized crime must be very clear. Okay, that, see, it involves drug trafficking, okay, smuggling of drugs, it involves human trafficking, it involves hawala transactions, money launderings, it involves cyber crime. Okay, so the major task here is to discuss what is the link between organized crime and terrorism. Okay, so what we have learned from the definition of organized crime, that it is an illegal activity that is run for profit. Okay, so the profit that is basically generated from this organized crime is used in the terrorist activities. For example, the money generated from hawala transactions, the money generated from what we say cyber crime activities, money generated from money laundering, okay, money generated from human trafficking, it is used in the operation of terrorist activities. We have enough evidence nowadays. Actually, what is happening all over the world is that individuals, the terrorist groups, they have made close contacts with the organized crime individuals. Either they have themselves engaged in some organized crime activity, okay, or basically they are closely in collaboration with the individuals who are running organized crime, so that basically to fund the terrorist operations they can use basically those money that is generated through organized crime. And similarly, the individuals from organized crime are also dependent upon terrorist activities, because they use the link and the men that are engaged in terrorist activities to run their operations. So sometimes they are both working in collaboration to fund the, what we say, needs of each other, or it may be run by a single individual also who is running organized crime and is on the other side funding terrorism also, or the individuals engaged in terrorism can themselves run an alternate organized crime to fund their terrorist activities. We will see here. See, through drug abuse prevails all across the India, regions in the northwest and northeast have rampant linkages with the narcotics industry. Here I have specifically highlighted to you that you see this is a golden crescent, okay, and this is a golden triangle, and they both are basically, the drugs is basically pushed into India from both the sides, okay, the east and west borders. And the consumption of the drugs that is done by the Indian individuals or the Indian youths, to be specific, the profit generated from these activities is basically used to fund the terrorist operations. Another also in the world, like Colombia is there or Mexico is there, okay, these are also the some major narcotics industries hub. So that is with respect to drug abuse. Then you must, I have already told you about golden crescent that consists of Pakistan, Afghanistan and Iran. And then there is an infamous golden triangle that consists of Myanmar, Thailand and Laos. Okay, you must know this with respect to your security issues also, so that you can make a diagram or a flow chart in the paper, or with respect to your preliminary exam knowledge also. Okay, so it undermines financial security of India by generating black money, hawala transactions, money laundering. So what is done is that the money that is generated through this drug activities, it has to be made white. Okay, that black money is basically routed through hawala transaction or the money laundering activity and made to appear in the basically legal system of the country. So that is how basically the system is, what we say, attacked from the inside, we can say. Okay, then basically existence of large cash economy enables border terrorist activities and establishment of links with the underworld, as gains can be channelized through the hawala routes. You must see with respect to why our government is focusing so much on digital economy. Why government is focusing on so much on digital economy, whether that is with respect to UPI, whether that is with respect to BEAM that is there, or basically if you can talk about the another major step that was basically your demonetization. Okay, demonetization that was there. What was it done for? It was done for basically to weed out the black money which is used to basically attack the system from inside the country. Okay, that was basically used for demonetization. So why the government is focusing on these things, basically digital system, so that we can keep a account of each and every penny that moves within the system of the country, and we can basically catch the criminal individuals who are funding their activities through terrorist activities, okay, or through organized crime and attacking the basically internal security of the country. So that is a basic issue with respect to drug trade, that is a major one here. Then Pakistan, particularly the ISC, has realized the vast damaging potential of money laundering, hawala counterfeit currency to sustain the subversive activities. Okay, for example, it is basically very difficult for a country to fund the terrorist operations, because it may basically, it will take a toll on the resources of their own country. So what they are indulging in now is they have indulged in organized crime activities like drug trade is there, human trafficking is there, so that the money that they can generate from these activities can be used to fund the terrorist operations. Okay, and with respect to Pakistan, we will see that it has been particularly established. See, the ISI has been using these established channels for smuggling of arms, explosive, which have provided terrorism greater threats. As I have already told you that the routes that are used by each other are sometimes basically they are used to help each other. For example, the route of organized crime activities that is there for drug activities, okay, drug smuggling route is there, the same route is used sometimes by the terrorist individuals to infiltrate within the country, or if time the resources, the individuals that are needed to smuggle the things, okay, they sometimes use the individuals from the terrorist operations, because that is how they basically operate their operations. Then CIA report in heroin in Pakistan, basically it stated that the use of drug money by Pakistan intelligence to finance militancy in Punjab and Kashmir. As I have already told you that see how this activity is used basically. Then the Golden Triangle produces over 1000 tons of opium, which is refined into very high grade heroin, okay, and very little of it is seized in northeast due to the ineffective surveillance and enforcement. Okay, further you can also highlight the examples with respect to that in Gujarat you must have learned about that a drug worth 7,000 crores was seized, basically that was infiltrating to India. Okay, some many a times basically last month also basically a drug worth 2 to 300 crores was seized on the Gujarat port. Okay, and remember, see, link it with the terrorist activity. The individuals who basically did the 2008 attacks, basically Mumbai attacks that were there, they also used the route that was used for organized crime activities, the same Gujarat route basically that was used for organized for drug smuggling activities. Okay, that is how the things basically overlap between both of the things. Then you can also make a flow chart within your answers that see organized crime leads to the generation of illegal activity, sorry, illegal money. Then illegal money has to be made white and then it is laundered. Okay, that money is laundered. Then basically that particular money is used for terrorist financing activities and which create terrorism in the country, and terrorism further encourages the penetration of organized crime. This is a diagram or flow chart that you can make with respect to your answers. Moving forward, see what is the impact of these things. The impact of these things is that the shared tactics used by them, they bolster each other's capabilities. Okay, as I have already told you about organized crime bolster the terrorism through funding, terrorism bolster the organized crime through the organized routes through providing number of men for organized crime activities. Okay, enhances their organizational infrastructure, okay, where the safe house is used by the terrorist individuals, the contacts that are used by the terrorist individuals. Okay, for example, Mumbai attacks at 1992, 2008, I have already told you, use the routes used for smuggling insurgency in the northeast. Okay, this is a major impact. Then helps terrorists with improved access to resources. I have already told you major resource is your finance. ISI has been using these established channels for smuggling of arms as well as explosive to the country, thus hampering our internal security. Then expands their geographical reach. Okay, the more the penetration of organized crime, the more basically will be the penetration of terrorism, because link it with because of the close collaboration between both these organizations. Okay, the areas where organized crime will penetrate, they will provide access to terrorist activities to operate also there. Okay, because they will be using the resources of those organized crime individuals. Then both takes place in the weak political context. Example, Taliban in Afghanistan. Okay, when the political context, political environment of the country is not stable, then it hinders the effective implementation of law, and when rule of law is not there, it is used by the individuals involved in illegal activities to bolster their operations. So what is the basic argument here? They improve the tactics, they improve the basically infrastructure that is used for them, then they provide improved access to resources, they provide basically or they expand the geographical reach of these activities, and then basically the weak political environment of the country. So this was basically the major things that we discussed here. Okay, so that was all from my side with respect to these both the topics. Okay, the video with respect to Seize the Mains will be uploaded at 9. So that was all from my side. Thank you, all the best. We will meet next week.